especially gender inequality, by ensuring equal access to education for everyone, by enabling greater participation and inclusion at the political level, and by enforcing employment and anti-discrimination laws in order to guarantee the health, happiness, and safety of our working people, of our women, and our children. Social cohesion is about fostering greater integration in our nation. Integration can increase a sense of belonging. It can give recognition to all groups and to allow them to freely practice their culture. Our nation's future stability depends also on wider political inclusiveness. The ethnic arithmetic of the past can only mean that a minority could be excluded from a government by a majority, however slim. Confrontation characterized the old politics. Calculations of ethnic support determined election tactics. The winner-takes-all jackpot became the prize of every election. The political landscape became a battlefield, not always of ideas, but of racial rivalry. Communal conflict hampered human development. Mr. Speaker, that system belongs to the past. It is now dangerously dysfunctional. Recently, we saw that our communities have been liberated from the paralyzing failure to conduct local government elections. The lack of local democracy constrained the economic participation of citizens within their neighborhoods and municipalities. Local democracy is the lifeline of increased community involvement. The creation of new capital towns at Mabaruma in the Barima-Waini region, at Bartica in the Kuyuni-Mazruni region, and at Lethem in the Rupununi region will improve the provision of services to those hinterland regions. We need regular municipal and local elections in order to afford citizens a greater stake in the affairs of their communities, in order to provide incentives for economic activities, including the development of small businesses. Our people have been deprived of local democracy for over 18 years, but this will not happen again. It won't happen again. The Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana is an instrument of political inclusion. It has now become a mantra that, and I quote, "the principal objective of the state is to establish an inclusionary system of democracy by providing increasing opportunities for the participation of citizens and their organizations in the management and decision-making processes of the state, with particular emphasis on those areas of decision-making that directly affect their well-being." Mr. Speaker, the government has initiated the constitution reform process. It must aim at strengthening this particular provision to ensure that the intended inclusionary system is made to work. It must be extended, that is to say, the reform process must be extended to involve consultations with citizens in their communities in all 10 regions. Every eligible elector in this republic must be given the chance to be heard so that our country could advance with a constitution in which we all have confidence. Mr. Speaker, Guyana is committed to building a green economy. Our country's future economy depends on speedier adoption of renewable sources of energy and on the environmentally sustainable exploitation of our natural resources. This therefore requires a commitment to sustainable development that is mandated again by our Constitution, our supreme law, Article 36 of our Constitution states, and I quote, "In the interests of the present and future generations, the state will protect and make rational use of its lands, mineral and water resources, as well as its fauna and flora, and will take all appropriate measures to ensure and improve the environment." This is the Constitution, not an option. Economic change, therefore, is compatible with stewardship of the environment and measures for sustainable development. The Paris Agreement, approved by the parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in Paris on the 12th of December 2015, committed Guyana to a global action plan to put the world on track to avoid dangerous climate change by limiting global warming to well below 2 degrees centigrade above the pre-industrial levels. The high cost of energy for manufacturing and other industrial and domestic purposes has hindered Guyana's efforts to produce more value-added products competitively. Guyana's attendance at the U.S. Caribbean Central America Energy Summit in Washington, D.C. on the 3rd and 4th of May this year emphasized the need for a national energy security plan which will provide for the substitution of renewables for petroleum products for energy development. The transition towards renewable sources of energy as part of our green development thrust must be accelerated. Investments in solar, wind, hydro, biomass sources of energy must be augmented. The approach to a green economy will wean this country from its addiction to fossil fuels, fuels which exact a heavy burden on the economy. Mr. Speaker, members of this National Assembly, independence imposed an obligation to use freedom to unite our people and to assure them of a good life. We now have a second chance to fulfill this promise. Our 50th anniversary of independence must not only be a time of reflection on the past, but it must also be an opportunity to plan for the future. It is a moment when we can commit to ensuring that our children and generations to come could inherit a country that will allow them to enjoy a good life. Mr. Speaker, Guyana 50 years ago was born a broken nation under a state of emergency. Social strife, political disunity, and economic stagnation prevented our nation from achieving its full potential. We must do better. The first 50 years of our independence had to be devoted to mending the social fabric, promoting peace, and repairing the economy. The first 50 years were about overcoming a hostile economic environment. The next 50 years must be different. Let us use this special year to usher in an era of social peace, political collaboration, and economic prosperity for this and all future generations. The National Assembly was born in this hallowed chamber where the instruments of independence were handed over to the first Prime Minister of independent Guyana. It is fitting for me to come back here today to plead with the same National Assembly to use the opportunity of Guyana's 50th anniversary to unite our people. Mr. Speaker, we have a golden opportunity in our Golden Jubilee to build bridges that would lead us forward into the future as a unified nation. I wish you and members of this Honorable House happy Independence Anniversary. May God bless the National Assembly, and may God bless Guyana. I thank you.